What's up guys, it's SJ back again with some true Reddit threads. I have to keep re-recording this because I'm taking too long thanking all of you for the amazing support. Thank you for subscribing, liking, commenting. I read all your comments, please comment. I had a whole script for this but it's too long. Anyways, thank you again, love you all. Let's get straight into tonight's threads. Let's go. My new manager is someone I slept with years ago, and he doesn't know we have a child. The backstory. I went back to university in my late 20s to do my PhD, and shared an office with a few other students for many years. One of the students, Jacob, completed his thesis and was moving back to his home country, so we all went out for congratulatory/farewell drinks. One thing led to another, and Jacob and I spent the night together. A few weeks later, I realized I was pregnant and I had no way to contact Jacob. His university email and mobile phone had been deactivated since he'd left the university and the country. I didn't need anything from him and was fine to raise the child alone, but I thought he had a right to know. I googled him a few times over the years, but never found him. This last week, our department head emailed everyone to introduce and welcome our new manager, Jacob, with a photo and blurb about his education and work history, so I know for sure it's him. The night we spent together changed my life because it made me a parent, so I've thought about Jacob from time to time when my daughter asks about her dad or I notice a genetic trait she didn't get from me. However, I doubt Jacob has given that night a second thought. I have no idea whether he will have any concerns about being my manager given our history, or whether I'm making a bigger deal of this than I should. For what it's worth, in my years of sharing an office with Jacob, he seemed easygoing and practical. In our company, it is common for everyone in the department to reply all to those introduction emails and introduce themselves, welcome the newcomer aboard, and explain how their role will interact with theirs. I'm not sure if my email should note that Jacob and I studied together years ago as a way to get that out in the open, or should I email him individually and offer to have a discussion about keeping our history out of the workplace if he thinks it's needed. I'd appreciate any suggestions for language that indicates I'm not concerned and will be completely professional. And then, in direct contradiction to that, I'd also appreciate a script for a separate email saying, "Can we please meet outside of work because I need to tell you something important about our history," so I can tell him about his daughter. If you or any commenters think I shouldn't tell him or I should let him settle to his new country and new job first, I would definitely take that on board. And then there's some additional information after somebody pinned the comment onto the post, and the information is this: "Thanks for your comment at the top, Allison. The extent to which I tried to find Jacob wasn't relevant to my question, so I didn't include the efforts I went to. For the commenters who are curious, understandably, I really did try when I first found out I was pregnant. I asked the other people we shared an office with, but no one had any information. We were students who shared an office and sometimes went to the uni bar together. We never spent any time together outside of uni. I asked Jacob's thesis supervisor, but it was Christmas/Australian summer here, so he was on leave for 2 months. When he got back, he gave me the address on Jacob's file, which was of course the Australian address he didn't live at anymore. The uni had a next of kin Australian contact number on file for his aunt, but no one ever answered when it rang. Jacob is Chinese with a very common surname, and Jacob is just the name he used in my country. I don't know his actual given name, so attempts to find the correct Mr. Wong in a country where they don't use Google or Facebook went nowhere. I searched for recent publications about Jacob's thesis topic and found a paper with Jacob Wong as one of the authors. I contacted the corresponding author and asked for Jacob's email, but they never responded. By this point, I had to give up because I was so sick with hyperemesis gravidarum and needed to focus on my baby's health. Sorry, I don't know what that is. And then, 8 months later, there was an update. And it goes like this. Thank you for answering my letter. You were right. It was a really big deal. I was viewing the Jacob as my manager problem from his perspective, until I told him otherwise. It was just a simple one-night stand over a decade ago, and it didn't seem like a huge problem. I hated and appreciate the reality check. I regret reading the comments, but thank you also for moderating them as quickly as you did. A lot happened in a short space of time. Thankfully, I already had a therapist. First, I spoke to my union rep who said, say nothing but call us if HR tries to set up a meeting with you. Staying silent and having Jacob independently declare the prior relationship when he arrived would have been problematic because I'd still end up in the same position and I would have lied by omission. Our HR team can be gossipy and they know the age of my half-Chinese daughter, so I needed to have as much control as possible over the disclosure. I spoke to an employment lawyer who reviewed our policies, and at his suggestion, I wrote an email to HR declaring a prior relationship with Jacob. And then I was immediately pushed out. Even if you have all the legal support in the world, you can't prevent someone from doing something illegal. You just have recourse afterwards. In a meeting with my lawyer, the union rep, HR, and a member of the senior management team, I was asked to resign. When I said no, they insisted on a statutory declaration about the relationship with Jacob, stating what happened, when it happened, how many times it happened, and who initiated it, I also said no to that. We ended the meeting with each side agreeing to think about possible solutions. The company's solution was to start messing with my pay, my benefits, my swipe card access to my office, my computer login, and my email/calendar account. They spread rumors about me, and I heard co-workers whispering that I'd had an affair with a manager. They sent me for a random drug test at a time when I was scheduled for an important meeting with clients. They cancelled accommodation that had been booked for upcoming travel, which I only found out about because I was getting paranoid and called the hotel. I can't describe how awful it feels to know that someone with this kind of power over your job is devoting their time and energy to thinking of ways to screw with you. Every day I was going into work wondering what was waiting for me, and it was wearing me down fast. The advice from the union rep was to go back in time and follow their first piece of advice, or just keep documenting everything as we prepared to take legal action. The lawyer estimated that it would take at least a year to get any kind of resolution, and I didn't even want the job anymore. By this point, I wasn't sleeping much, and I cried a few times at work. I was beginning to crack, and we were only just getting started. So, I resigned. I wish I'd held up better under the pressure, but it was just all too much with the looming deadline of Jacob's start date at our office, and whatever way HR was going to drag him into this. I'm lucky that I can take my time looking for a new job, so I've had some space to process everything. Outside of the work stuff, I spoke with a family lawyer who outlined all the possible ways this situation could go, and what the most likely outcomes were. Basically, my daughter is old enough that what she wants would get heavily weighted by a court if it came to that. I've spoken to my daughter many times about her father. I told her what I knew about him and that I had tried to contact him. I've offered to her to see a therapist if she ever wanted to talk about it with someone who wasn't me, and she has always said thanks, but no thanks. The family lawyer helped me write a letter which I left for Jacob. I told him about his daughter, said I wasn't trying to get anything from him, and gave him the contact details of my lawyer. After a few weeks of me freaking out that HR had somehow intercepted the letter, he emailed my lawyer. He was the easygoing and practical Jacob I remembered. He was still processing it, but said he wasn't going to take any legal steps. He offered us his family medical history, he apologized if I resigned because of him, and he said he would like to meet our daughter if she's interested. She also has some siblings. I told her all this. She said she's happy that she has her father's contact info, but she doesn't want to meet him right now. She's of the view that having him in our lives would cause unwanted disruption, and she doesn't even know about the work clusterfudge. And then, 1 year later, from this update, there's another update, and it goes like this. I'm incredibly grateful for the support you and the AAM community gave me at a stressful time, so I thought I'd share a final update. My daughter changed her mind and has been in contact with Jacob. It's still a bit awkward between them, but they have some hobbies in common, which they've bonded over. My daughter also seems very excited to have some siblings who adore their cool new big sister. I know some people were wondering why my old company reacted the way they did. For reasons I can't go into, my work gets scrutinized by outside authorities, and my manager's role is primarily a quality control one. And suggestions that my manager had not checked my work impartially enough due to a personal relationship could have been career-ending for both of us. Additionally, the work I do is in a very specialist field, and there are only a handful of people in the country who do it. Another company in a smaller field had initially approached Jacob, who has held an amazing career by the sounds of it, to start a new department at their company doing the same thing. My old company paid a buttload of money to lure him over so that he wouldn't be in direct competition for clients and employers. All of this meant that I couldn't report to Jacob. There was no other manager I could report to, and the company couldn't risk him going back to their competitor. Because the two of us, Jacob was the bare asset to keep and the worst threat to lose. I'm not excusing the behavior of my old company, but there was a logic to it. I'm still angry about the way they treated me and how helpless I felt. But this is slowly fading over time. I had trouble finding a new job. Financially, we were okay, so I was being picky. Example, wanting to stay in my current city. After almost a year out of work, Jacob told me he'd been approached by the first company who still wanted him to start their new department. He was happy at my old company, but he offered to take the new role if I wanted to try to get my old job back. I would never ask him to do that, and I also never want to go anywhere near that company again, so I said no. Jacob turned the other company down, but gave them my name. It's a step up from where I was, but they interviewed me, and I got the job. I've been here about 6 months, and it's enjoyable so far. Plus, I've never procreated with anyone in my chain of command, so it seems like a good place to work. I've hired one of my former co-workers, plus 2 recent graduates from my alma mater who are bright, motivated, and quickly getting up to speed. Unlike my old company, we don't have a lengthy wait list for our services yet, so a few clients have started coming to us instead of them. I am delighted that I'm becoming the very threat my old company was trying to avoid when they pushed me out. And that is the last we hear from the OP. I told the doctor my mum was lying about my symptoms. Posted in r/askdocs, like doctors. Let's go. I know my mum is over-exaggerating my symptoms, but I don't know what to do. Hey doctors, I made a Reddit account for this question after I did a Google search. It seemed like the safest way to get an answer privately. I'm a 15-year-old girl. I'm 5 foot and 82 pounds. I take Keppra, hydroxychloroquine, and Adderall. God damn. Drug names are crazy, Brody. I live in the US. This has been going on for 5 years. I'm diagnosed with epilepsy, undifferentiated connective tissue disorder, and ADHD. My mum thinks I have POTS, or POTS, EDS, or EDS, and some other things. I don't know what those are, I'm sorry. Basically, I had a seizure once when I was about 10 on a school field trip. My mum had always been really intense anytime I got sick. She took me to the doctor for every single cold, but this seizure sent her overboard. And since then, she's basically been convinced that I have some kind of serious diseases. At first, I believed her. She was good at convincing me I was feeling things or that stuff happened that I didn't remember because I was having a seizure. But the only one I know I had for sure was the one in 5th grade. And when I was at the hospital after they didn't find an obvious case. Since then, my mum takes me to all these appointments claiming I have symptoms I don't or making them sound way worse than they are. Nightmare situation. For example, she'll claim I'm having fevers and that the only reason I don't have one in clinic is because I took Tylenol. It'll be true that I took Tylenol, but not because I had a fever. She just gives it to me. She'll also have me take cold medicine before cardiology appointments. Like she says, here's your sniffly, take this. Here your sniffly, take this. But now I'm reading that cold medicine makes your heart rate go up. And half the time, I don't even feel sniffly. It's like she'll plant these things too. She'll start saying, you seem lightheaded. Your joints look swollen. You look out of focus. Like she's trying to convince me. And it used to work, but now I'm sitting here like, I feel fine. And I'm sick of all these appointments. I want to do stuff with my friends and stop taking meds that make me B-word and sad and sick to my stomach. She'll take pictures at angles that make things look worse than they are. One time, I got a ton of bruises after playing on a water slide inflatable thing and taking a bunch of ibuprofen for joint pain, but I got a ton of bruises from it, and she told the doctors they showed up with no cause, and I got a full leukemia workup, and she was telling everybody how I probably had leukemia. I didn't. I knew what it was from, but she convinced me that playing on an inflatable would never cause that kind of bruising unless I was really sick, so I didn't say anything. The problem is, now it's been years, and I'm afraid if I say anything, we're going to get in trouble, and then no doctor will ever believe me if I do get sick someday. I don't know why I didn't say something sooner. I've been pretty sure for like 2 years that she's making most of this up, but it's confusing, and I don't know. I thought maybe she was right and I was just brushing off things. Sometimes it would feel like she was right. What do? Can I tell the doctors I see that it's probably not real, or is this going to ruin my medical care forever? Also, I really did have a seizure when I was 10. I was at school and there was a whole cafeteria of witnesses, so that wasn't made up. I don't even know what's real at this point though. I had a high ANA, 1 to 160, but I don't think a lot of the other symptoms that got connective tissue disease diagnoses were real. I'm not trying to say it's not my fault too. I should have said something sooner, but I feel stuck. Please help me figure this out. I see a cardiologist Thursday, and I want this to be over. Also, I know my BMI is low. I don't eat a lot. I'm working on it. And then and then there are some comments, and then the OP replies to him. So, sorry. Here they go. One comment says, Munchausen by proxy syndrome, and then trying to see if the OP can go to the doctor by herself. And the OP replies, I probably could go to a doctor myself, but my mum won't let me because she says it's important to have an adult who can explain things and that she wants to make sure she knows the treatment plan. I also don't go back to school until September. Is there some way to signal to a doctor to ask me something alone or go make my mum sign papers or something? And then a commenter says, if it's possible, you can sneak away for a few minutes. You can call the doctor's office and tell them know in advance that you need to speak to the doctor privately without your mother present. If it's not possible for you to sneak away and make the call, I would write a small, easily hidden note before you go and keep it in your pocket. After you're in the exam room, say that you need to use the bathroom, hand the note to literally anybody staff-wise that you encounter. Make it a point to see someone on the staff. Even if you know where the restroom is, go ask them where it is as an excuse to pass the note. It can say something simple like, please let the doctor know I need to talk with them alone and it's urgent, but I don't want my mum to be suspicious. And the OP replied, thank you, after I do that, what happens? Will they just tell my mum they didn't find anything and I can be done, or are we going to get in trouble? Is it going to make it hard if I have an issue in the future? And then a commenter writes, I can only speak as a physician in the United States. I'm not sure if you're based in the USA, but here, once you explain what's going on to your physician is required by law to report the abuse. And make no mistake, based on what you've told us here, you are being abused. An investigation will be opened and you'll have a chance to tell investigators everything. The only one who's going to get in any trouble is your mother. You are a child. You are doing what your mother tells you to do, and everybody involved in the investigation will know that. You don't need to be worried about future visits. You'll be taken seriously. Your mum needs a mental health professional. She has a mental illness, and it's one that can quite literally put your life in danger. Life might absolutely suck for your family for a little while, but if your mum doesn't get better, she's going to make you get worse. Reaching out to your physician on Thursday is the first step in ensuring that your mother gets the help that she needs. And then the OP replies saying, I'm in the USA. Does opening an investigation always mean I won't live with my mum anymore? Or just she'll get therapy and help? Also, I think the doctors think my weight is from the illnesses they think I have, but it's not. I'm not really eating a lot, like on purpose. And I kind of want to mention it, but is this the right time, or should I just do one thing at a time? I know I need to have more, and I'm trying, but it's not going all that well. And then the OP replies to a comment calling it abuse, and they say this, abuse just feels like it's blowing it out of proportion. I know what you mean, and I know it's not right, it just feels like that. It just feels like then I'm exaggerating. She's not hurting me, just pretending I'm hurt. And then a commenter writes, NAD, not a doctor, she doesn't want to hurt you. She almost certainly genuinely thinks she's helping, but has a mental illness, as the doctor above said. You need to put your health first, and since you sound concerned about her, you can support her as she gets help, and you don't have to stop loving or caring about her. And the OP replies, that makes me feel better too. I don't want to see her as some kind of bad guy. I just don't want to keep getting blood drawn and lying to doctors. And then on eating less, the OP says, I'm not trying to make myself feel sick by eating less. I'm not really sure why. I just like having something else that's mine and she doesn't have a say in, I think. Like, I get to choose this one thing, if that makes sense. And then to a comment with some resources, some links and some help, the OP replies, I'll look at the resources. I think they think my weight is from something else. My mum has been saying I'm having bathroom issues, and I guess I kind of am, but I think it's because of how I'm eating, not the other way around. But it's getting hard to change how I eat, even when I want to now. Like with my friends, I can't relax those rules at all. And then a commenter writes, NAD, but a pharmacist. She is hurting you. You're currently taking hydroxychloroquine, yes, which builds up over time in your eyes and causes blindness. We still use it in patients with serious diseases like lupus, MCTD, and UCTD because those diseases are so severe and the risk of blindness is outweighed by the risk of organ damage, joint destruction, and death if you don't treat them. Typically, we start this medication in patients who are much older than you as well to reduce how long patient is exposed to the hydrochloroquine. You are very young, and taking this medication over time could cause serious and irreversible changes to your vision. I'm not saying this to scare you or anyone else out of taking unnecessary medication, but it sounds like in your case, there's a good chance it's not necessary. At the very least, you deserve to know if you really have UCTD or not. If the severity of the UCTD is to the point that you need to be on hydrochloroquine or not, and if the dose you're on is appropriate for your symptom level. You also deserve to not be blind in your 20s or 30s due to unnecessary medication use. And the OP replies, I didn't know it could cause blindness. I know I start getting my eyes checked every year, but I thought it was because the disease could affect them. And the OP adds, I know my mum watches my phone records like who I call and text, so I'm not sure calling ahead is a good idea, but I think I'm going to write a note. And the OP adds some thoughts in a comment the same day 9 hours later. Here's something that I've been thinking about since I posted. So I looked up some of the eating issue treatment stuff, and it looks like the main kind of therapy is family-based therapy, where your parents have to take over your whole diet. And that sounds horrible to me. First of all, I think my mum would maybe like it if I had a problem, and especially if it meant she got to be in charge of everything I eat and do. And that sounds like a nightmare to me. And I'm thinking maybe it's better not to say anything and wait until I'm an adult and I can deal with it alone. And then the OP's dad writes this. It's just me and my mum. Or I think this is about the OP's dad. Yes, it is. Sorry. It's just me and my mum. My dad passed away when I was too little to remember. Do you think I can go to somewhere else to get better if it's too hard to do on my own? I really don't want her involved. And then to a longer piece of advice, the OP replies this. I get what you're saying. Thank you. I do actually like the cardiologist. He's nice and he has a good sense of humor and actually talks to me and not just my mum. So I feel like he's a good person to start with. I just kind of panicked seeing family-based therapy. And then the OP provides us with an update 3 weeks later, and it goes like this. 15F, 5 foot, 80 pounds. I posted here once before because I knew my mum was lying about me being sicker than I was, and I wasn't sure how to handle it. I took everyone's advice and I ended up telling them at the next appointment. After we checked in, I said I had to go to the bathroom and I left a note with a nurse. I think my doctor maybe looked at it before the appointment actually, because it took a really long time for us to go back. And then in the appointment, the doctor was asking a lot more probing questions and clarifying questions and pointing out inconsistencies my mum said. And then he asked to talk with me by myself and my mum by herself too, actually. So I'm seeing a team of doctors now who wanted to verify some of the diagnoses that I had, and they admitted me to do that, like in the hospital. And there was always a nurse or someone in my room with me. I'm not 100% sure because no one actually told me this is why, but I'm guessing it was to make sure my mum didn't say or do anything or give me anything. Is that something they actually do? It sounds so dramatic. Or maybe it's normal to check things out in the hospital like that. I don't know. Maybe they're changing some of my diagnoses now and my mum is talking with a counsellor. She still maintains that she's not doing anything to me and I'm really sick and just getting influenced by crime documentaries. Adding, she called me listening to the podcast for context. But things are a little better. She's not supposed to be in charge of any of my meds now. I do that myself. And I write down everything I take and when in a journal so there's a record. And I'm not taking the hydrochloroquine anymore. Thank you guys for telling me to say something. I was really afraid I was going to get in trouble, but no one was mad. Not even my mum actually. Not even at my mum actually. They were nice about it. Maybe a little stern, but nice. And that is the last we hear from the OP, unfortunately. Husband has a new chosen family he prioritizes and sees every week. I'm jealous and frustrated. My husband, John, and I are mid-30s and together 8 years. We've been through a lot of big life stresses. It has strained our marriage and we've worked hard in 2 years of marriage counseling to rebuild. I'm now 8 months pregnant. I'm feeling vulnerable, huge, hormonal, and tired. I'm the primary earner and workload has been a lot on top of baby prep. I'm normally a very rational, independent, and sort of non-emotive person. I've never been jealous before. But my husband has a new female friend, Pam. And now I'm jealous and possessive, even if I find it weird. Pam is mid-20s, white, has my husband's preferred physical features, is bubbly, spontaneous, in an open relationship, and into the same hobbies as my husband. I have my own qualities, but I'm pretty much the opposite. John met Pam and liked her immediately. I remember him coming home and telling me how cool she was, and he'd been invited to a hobby event she hosts with her partners. He's been attending that every other weekend for a year. Then, a few months later, he also wanted to get to know Pam, so we've started having her and her partner Kevin over with some of our other friends on the in-between weekends, so my husband sees them every weekend. To be fair, Pam and Kevin have always been really nice and are good friends to John, but there are things I've noticed. Pam always sits next to John. She and John say "love you" casually to each other within the group. John is very protective of Pam, and he remembers things she likes and buys her gifts. Nothing pricey, but thoughtful. If for some reason one of these events is cancelled, John is noticeably sad. Going even a week without seeing them is hard for him. Because of these weekend commitments, we don't do date nights and rush other activities. If I have other plans, then we split up and don't see each other. We're discussing it in counselling but can't come to an agreement. Our counsellor facilitates but doesn't give direct guidance. I've shared that it feels like he's prioritising this relationship over our own, that I hate that he's standing date nights and Pam and her partner trumps ours, that he's not keeping up with commitments to me or the baby, and I'm managing with my own support network of friends and paid help, but at 8 months along, I need help, that this needs to change. He shared that Pam and her partners are part of his new chosen family since he's had to move away from his family because of me, that I said it was okay for him to spend this time with them and I can't just change my mind, that it's unfair, that he's willing to spend more time with me, but then something else needs to give, either chores for him or me adjusting my work schedule, that he thinks I'm overly sensitive and I'm only worried because Pam's relationships are open and my insecurities are something I should deal with in individual therapy. I'm really not sure what compromise looks like, and counselling seems to just cause us to entrench more. Wondering what advice any out there might have. TLDR, my husband has a new chosen family, including a woman I've become jealous of, maybe unfairly, who my husband sees every weekend. I'm also hugely pregnant and hormonal. Therapist says we should figure out a compromise. And then there are some relevant comments. And it goes like this. How do you plan to handle the new upcoming baby? Have you discussed what your schedule will look like then? Since he's going to need a lot of time, since he's going to need to spend a lot of time caring for the child, and your schedules will need to change. It seems like the thing to do is to start fresh and decide what things are going to look like once the baby is born. Since you're the primary earner, he should be the primary caregiver, and you both will have less time for socializing. And then the OP replies, we're going to take a break from social commitments for 2 months and then reevaluate, but he's likely to want to continue to see them at least every other weekend. The compromise to take care of the baby is he's going to stop working to care for baby MF. 1 weekend day for our family and 1 weekend day with Pam and crew for their hobby. I've said in counselling, this doesn't seem reasonable. I'm running out of options. Debating calling my husband's dad at this point, who I'm close with and will ebb on my side. But husband will probably lose it if I bring in his dad. And another comment says, she's in an open marriage and they say love you to each other in public? He's cheating on you. How does he defend this in therapy? And the OP replies, he says it just means I love you in a generic casual way, and when they say it, they mean it to everyone in the group. He says it the same way as when he says love you to male friends he is close with, and I shouldn't read too much into it. I've never said love you to a male friend, even only rarely to female friends. And then another commenter says, or a commenter replies to that saying, did you tell him it makes you uncomfortable? And the OP replies, I think my exact words were, it's weird and I hate it, while crying. Second trimester was a fun time. He chalked it up to hormones, and we never spoke about it again. I haven't heard them say it in front of me again, but who knows what they text or say when they're together. And then another commenter writes, "You're pregnant with his child. If his deadbeat ass wants to go have a new family, tell him to enjoy that, and take him to the cleaners for child support. These gaming nights, is it Dungeons and Dragons or something similar? Watch a YouTube channel called Neckbeardia. Get a sobering laugh from listening to the stories of sexual debauchery that tends to happen in those gatherings. Your husband does not want to be with you anymore. He isn't sexually attracted to you anymore. You married a child who wants to play with others instead of taking care of his offspring. Guys like this make me want to vomit." And the OP replies, "Ding ding ding, Dungeons and Dragons with MTG for good measure." And then another commenter writes, "Have you talked to Pam to find out what he's been telling her? I'm disappointed that she hasn't clued into it, put a stop to it. But he could be lying to her. After all, you have been part of this social circle too. Is she friendly with you too? I would explain that he's been behaving in ways towards her and in private with you that make you very uncomfortable, and you'd rather communicate openly with her about it. It will give you a better read on it. In best case scenario, it may very well put a stop to it if he has been misleading her." And then the OP replies, "I only see Pam in a group setting with other friends, and she's now been introduced to my friend group. We're socially nice to each other, but definitely not close enough to talk directly to each other. And to be honest, neither of us really likes the other. We're very, very different people." And then there's an update. And it goes like this. "It's been a while since. Our little boy is 2.5 now. Thank you to everyone who commented. It was the kick in the butt I needed to lay down the law. Especially the folks that rightly pointed out I was a passive doormat without self-respect. That stung, but was true. After my post, I had a big sit down with John on the things I was upset about. My husband was traveling to be a groomsman for a good friend. I told him to stay out there for an additional week and decide, 1, if he wanted to stay married and wanted to be a family. 2, if he wanted the above, think about what needed to change on his part, not just Pam but the other stuff too, how he was going to be a good husband/father going forward. Or 3, arrange to go over with me and our marriage counselor on his return. And 3. So all 3 of those things. Alternatively, if he didn't do the above, then when he got back, we'd start logistics on separation and co-parenting. And surprisingly, he did all the above. Apparently, he reflected a lot at the wedding. His friend and his wife are such an in-love couple, goddamn, and thought a lot about us and our relationship and what he wanted. He came back and proposed changes. Immediate break from Pam/company and stop to their hobby. He played some D&D/MTG online, but that was it. He'd take over remaining baby prep, nursery, logistics, and promised to lay out a postpartum care plan for me and baby. He stuck to his word and has also worked hard to regain my trust. Then we had our son, and my husband was over the moon in love. He and baby have been inseparable ever since and have an amazing adventure-filled life with all the hobbies. Baby/toddler swim, gym, soccer, co-op, and a great local parent community. After our kiddo was born, Pam lost interest in my husband anyway. She doesn't like kids. And shortly thereafter, cheated on her poly relationship. Kevin and John have actually become good friends since then. But John is straight, so I have no worries there. And as I've reflected, I think I also just actually hated Pam. She's everything I don't like, relying on men for affirmation, no job/life ambition, frivolous and stupid. And apparently, according to Kevin, the feeling was mutual. She thought I was a controlling, stuck-up, robotic Ivy League workaholic who didn't appreciate or support my husband's hobbies/quirks. I was also a lot more emotional during pregnancy than normal. My husband, upon reflection, liked being needed and admired. We had a lot to work through with us, but 2 years later, we're in a great spot. I also had a weird shift in hormones postpartum, which made my intimacy time drive really high, which for us helped a lot with our relationship. Didn't want this to be too long, but there were a lot of changes we implemented to get back to a loving place. John feels a lot of purpose in being a dad and supported me as my carer has taken off. Sometimes things are still hard. My job is really high stress, toddlers are a lot of work, etc. Jesus. But we're pretty happy. We spent this morning snuggling in bed with our toddler and dog, pretending we were on a boat, making hairdryer sounds and giving hugs. We live a pretty boring suburban kind of life, but it works for us. Thanks everyone for the push for me to stand up for what I wanted and needed. And that is the last we hear from the OP. My son's friend's parents want to adopt him. I, 24F, am a single mum to my son, Owen, 8. It's been just us since day one. His father isn't in the picture and has been able to avoid child support for years now. Yes, I've tried everything. My own parents disowned me. I had to drop out of high school and have worked a myriad of jobs since then to keep us afloat. We aren't on the poverty line by any means, but we definitely live paycheck to paycheck in a 1-bedroom apartment. It's not ideal, and I hope within the next couple of years we'll be someplace bigger. For now, it's our situation. I've raised Owen to know that money isn't everything. We may not have a lot, he won't always have the newest this or that, but we have each other. The two of us are very close. He has never gone without the basics, but I admit he doesn't get a lot of fun extras. I try to save a little here and there to make birthdays and holidays fun, but it's still never anything glamorous. And I think Owen was fine with that. Until recently, anyway. In our area, all the public schools are based on a lottery system, so your child has a fair shot of going to any of them, so long as you put in their name. Our neighborhood school is not great and in a pretty crappy area, so I decided to put him in a different one across town. It's near my job, so it works out. Last year, when he was in 2nd grade, he met Charlie. They began hanging out a lot after school, with Owen going to his place. I met Charlie's parents, Nate and Paige, a couple of times before this began. They seemed very nice and supportive. Owen always had a great time at their house. Charlie occasionally came to our apartment, but usually they were at his place, which made sense. I work and there's really not much for them to do here, even when I am off. Summer breaks are easy to find care, as there are several free or low-cost camps that I can put Owen in. It's the shorter breaks, such as Christmas and spring, that are harder. Camp space is limited. Spring break of 2022, I managed to just miss registration. Paige is a stay-at-home mum and offered to take Owen for the week. I was hesitant to ask so much of her, but she insisted. He had a really fun time with them, did a ton of activities, and Paige refused my attempts to pay her back, at least some. I couldn't afford all. I admit I did feel a tad uncomfortable with her spending this much on my son, but at the same time, I don't want to deprive Owen of this stuff. Summer came, and while I did get Owen into a camp, he spent a lot of time with Charlie as well. He ended up going on vacation with them. I was, again, very hesitant, but the experience was something I could never give Owen, and it wasn't too far away. He had a blast. I kept telling Nate and Paige that there's no way that I could ever pay them back, and they kept insisting that they loved having Owen around. They told me what a great kid he is. Sweet, respectful. At one point, I really pressed Paige as to why she was so insistent on having Owen around so much. That's when she told me that they never planned for Charlie to be an only child, but all attempts to give him a sibling just didn't happen. They know that Owen will never make up for not having a brother, but if they can give him a consistent playmate so he's not lonely, they'll do it. Should this have been a red flag? Maybe. But at the same time, I found it sweet that the boys considered each other brothers. I thought it was innocent. Surely Paige and Nate knew the truth, right? Right? This continued for a bit more, and come Christmas break of 2022, Paige and Nate insisted that I not even bother to try to get Owen into a camp. They take care of him for me. I was grateful. They ended up getting him more Christmas gifts than I did. I tried to set my pride aside because it was about Owen and not me. This is still when things finally started seeming off to me. I understand a gift on his birthday, and while they didn't get him as many gifts as they got Charlie, it was a lot more than you would typically get your kid's friend. Fast forward to now. Spring break was last week, and this time, Paige and Nate didn't just offer to take care of him during the day while I worked, they asked if Owen could spend the entire week at their house. Honestly, it meant I could pick up some more shifts and save up for the bike Owen wanted for his birthday. So, I said yes. I went to pick him up on Saturday afternoon. The kids were playing out back, so Nate and Paige asked to talk to me. They sat me down and said they love Owen, and he's always such a joy to have. I thanked them profusely for all they had done for him. Paige suggested that Owen stay a little longer. I pointed out Easter was Sunday, plus school started up on Monday. They said they could take him to school. I felt weird and said no. It was time for Owen to come home. That's when Nate suggested that Owen stay with them long term. I could still see him, but they would take care of him. I thought they were joking and said, like what, you'd be his guardians or something? They got quiet and the reality rushed over me. I pointed out that this wasn't a movie. They can't just get custody. They started spouting some legal stuff about how I could assign them as guardians and they would help make their transition smooth. They told me to think about Owen and what's best for him. I told them there was no way in hell I was going to give up my son. I grabbed Owen and we left. I've blocked their numbers. Owen has no clue what's going on. I'm keeping him home tomorrow and took the day off work to figure some stuff out. Illegally, they can't take him. But now I know what they want and I'm terrified. I don't want him going back to that school. Do we move? I'm so lost and I feel so stupid because looking back, all the warning signs were there. I know Owen is going to be devastated losing Charlie, Paige and Nate. How am I ever going to explain to him? And then there are some relevant comments and they go like this. This is in response to some accusations of neglect. And this commenter says, and the OP says, I can take care of my kid. He's never gone hungry. The lights are always on. He has clothes, albeit some from Goodwill or donations. We lived in our car briefly when I was 17, but I pulled us out of that situation and will never be in that place again. I have health insurance. He goes to the doctor, has his vaccines. He just doesn't have an iPad or summer vacations. What he does have is love. His favourite stuffed giraffe that I got him when I was pregnant. A love for the park. He isn't deprived. He has a good life. I love him and I'm never giving him up. And then somebody says something like, maybe those parents have been turned down by foster/adoption agencies, and the OP replies, I've suspected this too. It seems like they don't want another child, they want Charlie to have a permanent playmate/buddy, and I don't know much about the system, but if they were as honest as they were with me, I could see them turned down. And then later that day there's an update, and it goes like this. Post won't let me update directly, so here it is in the comments. Update. There's no way I can respond to everyone, so just know that I want to say thank you for the advice. While I understand those saying they potentially meant well and weren't trying to be offensive, it's still a risk I can't take. It's not like they offered to take him every so often. They wanted him full-time, permanently. To those who said I should just let them, please pass me whatever drugs you are on. I will never give up my son. Do we have the newest this or that? No, we have our needs met. I love my son and I'm not letting him go. As for everyone else, I took your advice and reached out to the school. I told them that Paige and Nate are no longer allowed to pick up Owen and explained I do not feel safe with them around each other. They understood. There's not much they can do outside making sure they never pick him up. It's too late in the year to move classes, but next year Charlie and Owen will not be in the same class. I notified the police, but again, they can't do much. We have zero in writing, and a simple request to have my child isn't really breaking any laws. Unfortunately, all I can do is hope they don't try anything. I still haven't spoken to Owen. I think it's fine if he talks to Charlie and plays with him at school, but I have to find a way to explain why they can't have play dates or sleepovers, as well as to never go anywhere near Nate and Paige. I guess that will come in time. I'll update again, and if anything happens, I'm hoping this is the end. As soon as Nate and Paige's defenders said they did take my no well, so hopefully they realize how totally out of bounds they were and leave us alone. And then the next day there's an update, and it goes like this. Monday night, I talked to Owen and explained that Nate and Paige were not safe. He was confused, and I explained that they wanted to take him away from me. I think it spooked him as he started crying, saying he didn't want to leave me and he didn't want to see them again. I held him and assured him he wasn't going anywhere. He understands he is never going to go anywhere with them and that the school is taking measures to protect him. I said he could still talk and play with Charlie at school. He said he doesn't want to. I was honestly worried he'd hate me, but you all were right. Telling him the full story made him realize how serious it was. He understands the gifts and trips will stop and says he's alright with it. Also, I wanted to address one last thing. I've gotten a few people offering me gifts or money. Please do not do that. I'm very appreciative, but that was not the purpose of this post. If you wish to do something, donate to your local shelter or other charity. Owen and I are not in need. I'd rather see it go to people who need it. I didn't see Nate or Paige a drop off, nor have I gotten any contact, but then again, I did block them everywhere. Thank you all for your help. I'll update if anything else happens, and hopefully it won't. And then 4 days later, there's an update, and it goes like this. I have tried to post this update in True Off My Chest, but it keeps getting auto-deleted. Since I have so many followers, I figure I'd update here, and hopefully it gets around. Well, what everyone feared would happen, did. Tuesday, he returned to school. I told him he could still talk with and play with Charlie. I was hesitant to drop him off, but figured you can't live in fear. Most afternoon, my son takes the bus to a local rec center for aftercare. I've told the school everything and that Nate and Paige were not to pick Owen up. I managed to call and even make sure he got on the bus. Aftercare was also made aware of the change in pickup list. Well, a half hour later, I get a call that Paige had tried to pick up my son. The front desk refused to release him. Didn't say why, just that she was no longer on the list. She wouldn't leave and the police were called. She was escorted out the building. While she wasn't brought to jail, there was a police report and I'm using this to go to court and get an order of protection. Paige and Nate are also banned from the rec center, so if they do show up, they will get arrested for trespassing. The police are working on ways to protect us and the local social services office has been made aware of the situation. So should they try to make a claim, they're aware of the situation. And then there is one relevant comment, and it goes like this. The commenter says, "Thank you for the update. I'm pulling for you. Great job on getting your ducks in a row at school and aftercare. They are starting to show their true colors. Please keep a careful eye out and be prepared. Talk with your son more and make sure he understands a little better to not leave with them." And then the OP replies, "Thank you. I spoke to him Monday evening, so he knew what he was walking into on Tuesday. It freaked him out a lot, and he said he absolutely didn't want to leave me. So he's aware and knows to never go with them." And then the OP doesn't update us until 2.5 years later. And it goes like this. Title, an update on our lives 2 years later. I hadn't realized it had fully been around 2.5 years since I gave an update to our lives. But I thought about this whole saga recently. found the account, and realized 3,000 plus of you follow this now. Plus, it seems I still get requests for an update. After this happened, I wanted to stay in the area we lived in. If anything, because I couldn't afford to move us. I ended up transferring Owen to a different after-school program. He still remained friends with Charlie at school. Apparently, even Charlie would call his parents weird and said he was angry with them for making it so Owen couldn't go over there after school. The rest of the year passed by awkwardly, but initially, the school did a good job of making sure Nate and Paige were not anywhere near my son. I was told they wouldn't be allowed to volunteer anymore, as Paige often did prior to everything. The summer came, Owen started his usual camps, and I thought all was well. I had initially been told that the boys would not be put into the same class the following year. It had been too late in the year to move either of the boys. But when I brought Owen to school on the first day, I saw Charlie's name on the door. It's a small school and they have a unique last name, so I knew it wasn't a coincidence. I spoke with the principal and was told it was impossible to keep them in separate classes, and there were factors I just couldn't possibly understand. I regretfully didn't fight as hard because I assumed Paige and Nate were still banned from volunteering. It was like a horror movie receiving a letter from the room moms of the class. Typical letter I receive every year talking about fundraisers, volunteer opportunities, when they raise money for teachers' gifts, etc. Paige's name was right at the bottom. I once again spoke to the principal and was told that they couldn't keep Paige away from the school. She donated a lot of money, was great with the kids. They said since she had no incidents in 5 months at that point, we had to let it go. By the way, 5 months, there's been an incident before. It's pretty freaking, what are you doing? It continues like this, sorry. I tried to. I thought maybe things have changed, but it brought me so much anxiety every time I thought about that woman near my son. The school was refusing to protect him. What if things hadn't changed? I debated switching schools, but this was the best in our area, and I couldn't afford private. I prepared my son. He said he wouldn't try to go with her and would scream if she tried to take him. Sure enough, first class party of the year, my son said Paige was there, and Owen said she kept trying to talk to him. She kept asking him to come over and even wanted my new phone number. I changed it for obvious reasons after everything went down. Thankfully, Owen knew better, but I just saw the rest of the year flashing before my eyes. Paige finding ways to be around my son, potentially breaking him down. Since the school didn't give a crap, I had nightmares of them letting her kidnap him. I knew we couldn't stay long, but again, I was broke, working a crap job, and I couldn't just pack up and leave. So I started applying to some new jobs out of our city. As it was, I had one job working in retail, but I picked up house cleaning shifts and occasionally some babysitting shifts in between. I took a chance and applied for a live-in nanny position in a city about 3 hours away. I don't think I'd have a shot at it, especially as I had a kid, but I met with the parents and they were so kind, so sweet. They were more than happy to let me bring Owen with them and let us live with them. They had an in-law suite I could live in as long as I was working there. It was only 1 bedroom, but Owen and I were used to that. He was a little sad about leaving his friends, but we jumped at the opportunity. I admit I was nervous to put ourselves in a similar situation as before. What if these people enticed my son and wanted to take him? But thankfully, they weren't like that. They were kind to Owen, but they maintained boundaries. I eventually told them our story, and they were horrified that this had ever happened to us, and assured me that they would never try to take my son. I was making better money living with them, and since I didn't have rent or utilities to worry about, I was able to save up more than usual. Owen thrived in his new school. The best part was, he got to spend time with me and the little ones I take care of. No more crazy hours, no more after-school programs. After 8 years, we finally caught a break. The family recently outgrew their need for a nanny, but they were happy to help me find a new job. This position isn't live-in, but I was able to save up to put a down payment on a condo, Something I never thought would happen. For the first time in 10 years, Owen has his own room, something that both excited him, but he was also a little scared. With the help of my old bosses, who are now good friends of ours, we were able to decorate. And my new bosses are so kind, and again, totally fine with me bringing their baby with me to pick up Owen and having him around. I haven't heard from Nate and Paige since April 2023. My son occasionally mentions Charlie, and I know he misses his buddy, but he's also relieved about where we are. I hope for Charlie's sake that his parents have calmed down. Maybe they've learned their lesson. If anything, so they won't prey on another woman in my situation. I don't speak to anyone from our old city, no friends there, so I have no way of knowing. Sorry if that's not a fun update. But that's where we are. Happy, healthy, and doing well. I'm 26 now, but many days feel like I'm 42. I'm in a new relationship now, dating seriously for the first time since Owen was born. I have a group of friends who are also nannies. It took me 8.5 years to gain a support system. Still haven't spoken to my parents. Owen's father will never be a part of the picture, but we finally have a family. Still, he often tells me that if all of it went away like Nate and Paige did, he'd be happy with just us. God, he knows how to make his mama cry. Anyway, thank you all for the support and concerns over the years. Much love to you all. And then there's one commenter, or one comment after this, and it says this: "Oh wow, so happy for you." That sounded sarcastic, but yeah. "Oh wow, so happy for you. Ugh, it's horrible how money talks. You must have been unbelievably anxious that whole school year. Wishing you both all the best." And then the OP replies saying, "Thankfully, I only had to deal with it for a total about 4 months. Last 2 months of the school year, then the first 2 months of the next, before I got the new job. Thank you so much." And then that is the last we hear from the OP. Me, 26F, and boyfriend, 29M, of 3 years just had our first baby. We're white, baby is black. I have a close black ancestor, but SO is furious and accusing me of cheating. As the title says, me and my SO, significant other, just had our first baby. We were over the moon when we discovered the pregnancy, and we were both really excited to have a child together. We wanted to get married next year, and everything was going great. We were happy. We both look very white, pale skin, blue eyes, brown and blonde hair. However, my great-great-grandpa was black, and some of his features have popped up here and there in our family. Kinky hair, darker skin, more black-looking facial characteristics. My SO knows this and has seen some of my aunts/uncles and cousins who have these features. I, however, don't have any myself, and neither does my mum. Our daughter was born 5 days ago, and I guess she's just got all the dormant genes in me, because she's really dark-skinned compared to us with really curly hair. I think she's adorable, but my SO flipped. He accused me of cheating, that the baby couldn't possibly be his. I've never given him a reason to suspect me of infidelity, and I've certainly never cheated. We argued about it. I pointed at all my cousins and other relatives who have black features, but he absolutely refused to listen. Said our daughter looked too black for that to be a plausible explanation. He stormed out the hospital, sent me a text an hour later that we were over, and when I got home from the hospital the next day, he wasn't there, and most of his personal belongings gone. I tried to reach him, but he didn't answer my calls or texts until 3 days later, when he told me he demanded a paternity test to prove that I was a liar, and if I refuse, I'll never see him again. I'm completely broken down and hurt over this. Our entire relationship, he's been so sweet and rational. This is completely unlike him. If he just calmly asked for a paternity test to begin with, I would have been hurt, but I guess I could understand the concerns. Our daughter looks nothing like him. But I don't think our relationship can survive this, even when I proved to him I wasn't lying. Should I go through with the test or just cut my losses here and raise her alone? TLDR, we're white, daughter is black. I have a close black ancestor, but SO refused to believe that's the reason, exploded at me, moved out, and is demanding a paternity test or else I'll never see him again. I'm hurt and angry. Should I get the test or just tell him to frick off and raise our daughter alone? Edit. I decided to get the test done. I'll update you all when I get the results. I'm still angry, but I guess I understand him a bit better now. And then there are some relative comments, and they go like this. That's your decision to make. However, in your situation, I'd do the paternity test either way. If you decide to leave him, it's a nice big frick you to him, and if you decide to stay, he gets his peace of mind. It's a win-win situation, really. I'd be hurt as frick if my SO accused me of cheating, even though I've never shown any signs of it. However, I don't know how I'd react if I had a white girlfriend and the baby came out black. There's probably a 1 in a million type of situation, so I really can't say anything else about this. And another commenter writes, you're going to need a DNA test for child support, so you may as well get one now. What you choose to do about the relationship is up to you, but you're going to need the child support. And the OP replies, wow, I've been so caught up in this whole drama and taking care of the baby, I hadn't even thought about child support. You're right, I'll get the test done, if only to make sure baby gets the best life possible. And another person comments, people are surprisingly ignorant of how genetics work. Anyway, get the paternity test, just for his peace of mind, but understand that your relationship is irreparably broken and that he may sadly never show your daughter the sort of love or affection a father should show his child. This is a heartbreaking situation. I feel most for the baby and you, of course, but that little girl is going to face a lot of challenges in life looking like a black child to white parents. Talk to your more black-looking relatives about this and do research on how to talk to your daughter about her ancestry and prepare her for some of the more stupid/bigoted/ridiculous things people are bound to say. And the OP replies, yeah, I imagine things are going to be hard for her, but at least she has a loving mum and a family who can relate to her. I just hope my boyfriend, my ex, I don't even know anymore, will come around and treat her with the respect he couldn't afford to give me. And then OP on her family history, this is what she writes. 4 generations back, my great-grandma and all her siblings look really black. My grandma less so. My mum's generation is the first to have completely white-looking kids. And I don't think so. So my friends joke that my butt is so big, I must have inherited that, but I don't think big butts are an actual racial trait. It's more of a stereotype. Plenty of white girls with big booties. And then, 5 days later, the update. And it goes like this. Hey guys, first of all, I want to thank all the original commenters who helped me see my significant other's side and calm me down enough to take the test. Well, the results are in, and of course, she's his. The whole process was absolutely ridiculous. I got an appointment with the doctor and texted significant other the time and location. He didn't answer, but showed up. And the entire time, he didn't say one word to me. I didn't want to touch or even look at the baby. I left as soon as they'd taken his sample, despite the doctor asking him to stay so we could go over a few things. Once he left, I just broke down, and I must say the doctor was really nice. Didn't judge me or accuse me of anything. Just calmly went over how the test works, and told me babies are often born darker than they actually end up being. Baby was an absolute champ, barely fussed when they drew her blood. I got the results yesterday. I texted SO the news and asked if he wanted to come over and open it with me. After almost half an hour, he finally responded, yes, he'd like to come over. I'm thinking he either sent it while on his way or he's not staying very far because he was here in about 15 minutes. Well, we opened it and read the positive test together. He turned white like a sheet and then just started bawling. I had to shush him because he was crying so loudly. And finally, I got an explanation for his flip out. I mentioned in a comment on the old post that he was an only child to very old parents. His dad died a few years ago and his mum lives alone a few hours drive from us. I haven't met her often, but she seemed pleasant enough. Turns out, she hates me. Absolutely hates my guts and always has. I had no idea about this. She's always acted kind of snobby, sure, but I had no idea she disliked me this much. When SO called her to tell her the good news 8 months back when we discovered the pregnancy, she started crying. He never told me this. As the months passed, she continued being super negative about the whole thing and saying she doubted the baby was actually his. I was below them. Poor people cheat because they're raised in a fricked up environment, WTF. And instead of talking to me about this, SO kept silent while constantly doubting me more and more. Baby being black just put the final nail in the coffin that his mother was right and I was a good for nothing, cheating B-word. After telling me all this, he just sat in silence for a while. Finally, he asked me if he could hold baby. I was still angry as hell, but decided that holding her was his right. He's her father after all. I went and got her from my crib, left him there, let him have her, and he started crying again, which scared her, and she started crying too. So they were just sitting there bawling together for a while. Finally, he stopped, handed her back, and asked if he could come home. I was kind of taken aback. I didn't expect him to just flat out ask that already. I laid out everything I said in the last thread. How insanely disrespectful and childish he's been. How he'd horribly broken my trust. Hadn't talked to me about his mum's poisonous and ignorant comments. Completely ignores me for 3 days, not telling me where he is or if he's still even alive. And then he just waltzes in and wants to start living here again. I told him if he ever wanted to have some inkling of a chance of mending the relationship, we had to go to couples therapy ASAP. From now on, he will answer my calls and messages unless there's an emergency. He will not be staying here for a while, and finally he needs to tell his mum to back the frick off. She will not be seeing baby until she apologizes to me in person. He immediately agreed, and finally told me how sorry he was for this whole fiasco. I'm not sure if I can forgive him for this, but I'm gonna try. We had an amazing life before this, and I hope that with a lot of work, we can have it again. SO also finally told me that he was staying in a hostel, but it's not very expensive, so we can stay there for a while longer. Baby's doing great, considering how many stress hormones she must have been drinking from me these last few days. Her hair's falling out, but the doctors told me it was normal, and babies often lose most of all the hair they're born with. I'm hoping her new hair will grow in blonde. Then that would make it even cuter. Thank you all for your help on the last thread. My mum agreed with many of you and thinks I'm absolutely nuts for trying to work things out. But I think it'd be best for everyone if we at least gave it a shot. Especially baby. TLDR, I'm not a lying B-word. His mum is a B-word. We're trying to work things out. Single father, 38M, with daughter, 17F, discovered she has a large amount of cash, and I'm suspicious. I'm a concerned father of a 17-year-old daughter seeking advice. Names have been changed to maintain some confidentiality. My background info. My wife passed away when my daughter was very young. I was still in college, but with the help of my parents, managed to finish college and graduate school while raising her. I've dated a few times since the death of my wife, but I haven't been able to maintain a serious relationship due to my career and the responsibilities of raising my daughter. My relationship with my daughter, Sarah, has always been very good. Sarah shared my love of the outdoors, so we used to go hiking, kayaking, and camping together quite often. In the last year or so, she seemed to become interested in other activities at school, so she hasn't spent as much time with me. I'm perfectly okay with that. She's growing up and coming into her own. Financially, we're very secure. I've been fortunate to make a nice living in a career I enjoy, and the hours are pretty manageable. Despite that, I've tried not to spoil my daughter and make sure she understands the importance of work. In exchange for an allowance and gas money, she has to complete chores around the house as well as help our elderly neighbor. She's 90, with things like taking out the trash, getting groceries, etc. She's an A student, participates well in school activities, and used to be a Girl Scout until she was 14. Honestly, I've always been very proud of her. She was out with a friend Saturday to watch a movie. I had a contractor come over to replace a couple of windows in the house while she was out. Now, I've always respected her space, and she knew about this beforehand. I ended up having to move around some of the furniture in her room and discovered a small box behind her drawers. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened it after the contractor was done, and there was about $3,000 in cash inside. That's way too much money for her to have. After the discovery, I snooped around her room a bit and found some expensive brand name clothing in her closet that I've never seen her wear before. Some were a bit too mature for my taste, but that's a discussion for another day. Since then, I've double-checked my accounts to see if she had secretly taken money from my accounts. But no, I never carry much cash on me, so she couldn't have stolen it from me. I don't think she's selling drugs because I never found a stash in her room. She's not dating anybody as far as I know, so it couldn't be her boyfriend's money either. I haven't discussed the discovery with her yet, but I intend to do it tonight. Any advice on how to approach this subject with her? $3,000 is a lot of money for her age, and I imagine she's spent more, so we could be talking about $5,000 to $6,000 here. I don't want to be too confrontational and would a way to bring up the subject so she feels safe enough to be completely honest with me. I'm so worried. I keep hoping she isn't caught up in something illegal that could jeopardize her future. Maybe I overlooked some signs. I'm freaking out and looking for your help here. TLDR, found a large amount of cash in my daughter's room, not sure how to bring up the subject in a way that will encourage her to be honest with me about it. Any advice would help. And then there's some relevant comments, and they go like this. You need to talk to her. I was cleaning up after the contractors left and found that box of cash under your dresser. That's a lot of money to leave lying around the house. It would probably be better to deposit that into a bank. How did you manage to save that much up anyway? Everyone's jumping to the worst possible scenarios. Drugs / selling yourself / whatever. But chances are it's perfectly innocent. She may be doing more odd jobs for other neighbors. Maybe the neighbor she's helping out has been giving her tips or more money than you're aware of. The fact that it was stashed in a box in her room is nothing to be worried about. She's 17. She's probably been keeping stuff in that box since she was a kid and doesn't realize that a bank would be a better place. And the OP replies to that saying, thanks for the advice. This seems like a good way to start the conversation. I don't want her to think that I'm snooping around in her bedroom and invading her privacy. I've always stressed to her the importance of dialogue and honesty, so I'm hoping she will come clean and it's nothing serious. And then another commenter writes, does she work? I worked from the time I was 15 and I saved up enough money by the time I was 18 to buy myself a computer, a very nice film camera, and plane tickets / rent for an apartment. If she's been working, that's really not that much money. Either way, I think you need to just ask her about it and don't come from an accusatory place. If she responds in a secretive / angry way, you know something weird is going on. If she's calm and has a reasonable explanation for it, you know she's probably telling the truth. And then the OP puts an edit on this post saying, my daughter doesn't have a part-time job. She does have a savings account that I opened for her with about $1,200 in it, which is why I'm worried she's keeping this money secret. She's accessed her savings account before to buy things like a new phone and camera, as well as gifts and other small purchases. She gets $50 a week in allowance, but if she wants to buy electronics or other things that she wants, it comes out of her savings. Any expenditure from extracurricular activities also come out of her allowance. As for the neighbor, I've told her before that she does not have to give my daughter anything for helping out, since I'm already paying her via allowance. And then there's a second edit on this post that goes like this. The clothing was really high-end brands, like Gucci and Versace. By mature, I didn't mean revealing or anything like that, just didn't seem like clothing a 17-year-old would want/wear. Also, I know $50 seems like a lot, but we live in an expensive city. The cheapest takeout place near me costs like $9 just for lunch. As for my neighbor, she might be 90, but her mind is pretty sharp. I don't know why, but I didn't think about her slipping my daughter cash here and there, so that's a possibility. The more I think about it, the calmer I'm feeling. I'll talk to her tonight and explain the circumstances of my discovery and take it from there. And then, 3 days later, there's an update, and it goes like this. I was signed into this account on my laptop and noticed I received PMs asking for an update to my post. So, here it is. I had a long talk with my daughter Sarah that night. I sat down and described the circumstances of the discovery. I explained that I was worried because it's a large sum of money and I didn't want her savings to be stolen. Well, turns out the elderly neighbor Anne has been giving her cash for the better part of a year now. Anne wanted her to have the money to help with college expenses and told Sarah to keep it a secret from me because I've always refused to accept money from her. Sarah also told me that part of the money was her own. She had been saving up for my birthday present and didn't want to put it in the savings account because, well, she'd have to ask me and it wouldn't be a surprise anymore. Later in the conversation, I brought up the expensive clothing. Those were throwaways from her friend's mother. Her friend is really tall, so she couldn't wear them and gave them to Sarah instead. They need some slight alterations, so she hasn't worn them yet. I apologized for snooping and explained that as a father, I was obviously concerned for her well-being. I also assured her that we are financially stable and that I've put aside enough money for her college expenses. I told her to keep an eye out for Anne to make sure that her welfare is not affected by the money she's paying Sarah. Also, I asked her to write a thank you card to her friend's mum and to include a present for her at Christmas this year. After the revelations, I wanted to reward her for her savings habits. So I offered to start a checking account for her and we looked into the options online. Turns out the bank I use offers a junior checking which I can co-sign, overdraft fees, etc. for her. It turns into her own personal account at 18. She'll have the use of a debit card. The bank also offers an online-based financial planning guide, so she'll read that before starting the account. We're going to the local branch to set that up for her this weekend. Sarah seems to reflect well to our talk. She took the opportunity to reveal that she's been in a relationship for a couple of months. I've actually met her girlfriend a few times before. They go to the same school, and I just thought that they were good friends, so that was a surprise. So yes, she came out of the closet to me. Being a dad, I still verified the clothing story with her friend's mum. Overall, I'm happy it was just me dramatically overreacting. However, I do feel rather guilty for the minor panic attack I had. As a parent, it's astonishing sometimes how quickly your child grows up. Just another part of the learning process, I guess. P.S. I didn't reduce her allowance, but did encourage her to keep saving because it's an excellent habit. TLDR, money from neighbor, clothes from friend's mum, so she's getting her own checking account. She also disclosed she's in a relationship. Worst of all, my tortured soul is left wondering what she's buying for my birthday. My college says if I miss class to testify in my assault trial, they'll drop me from my classes. I was essayed while home over a break, not by another university student, and the trial of my attacker starts in 2 weeks. I'm a university student about 5 hours driving distance from my hometown where the assault occurred, and I'll need to travel there to testify at the trial. I'd spoken to my advisor and all my professors, notifying them of the days I'd be out, and everyone was understanding, giving me take-home versions of any tests or work I'd been missing. Unfortunately, one of the days I'll likely need to be out coincides with midterms. So my professor was required to get approval from the academic dean and dean of the college to issue a take-home midterm. His request for the take-home midterm was denied. And when it came to the attention of these deans, they contacted all my professors and informed me if I missed that many classes, it would be approximately 2 of each class, maybe 3, depending on some court scheduling, and 4 of another class, but it meets every day of the week. My professors were comfortable marking these as reported absences, which basically means there was a justification like a doctor's note or other official documentation. I showed the deans that I was in fact being called to testify by the defense, so it wasn't even really like I had a choice. I figured that would be enough documentation. The dean said that personal non-medical conflicts could not be counted as reported absences and would be treated as unreported absences. So, treated as the same thing as if I just slept through class. They suggested I apply for a leave of absence for the semester because otherwise I'd be dropped from my classes at the 3rd absence and be on probation if dropped from 2 or more classes. School policy. This attack took enough from me already. I went to great lengths to be sure I didn't miss a day of school while recovering. I do not want this man to derail my life further by pushing back my graduation date. I spoke to the Title IX office who'd promised me they could help me. But it turns out their idea of helping was helping me plan my leave of absence. I do not want to take a leave of absence. All my professors were ready and willing to work with me, and I was/am entirely capable of keeping up with the work. Do I have any legal recourse here against the school? Thank you in advance. And then there are some relevant comments, and they go like this. What would the leave of absence entail that you are against it? Would it force you to retake all your classes? And the OP replies, I would have to withdraw from the university for a full semester, leaving me to either spend all summer in school, thus unable to work full time, or graduate late, and there is no guarantee I'd even get my full tuition back. And another commenter writes, have you been served a subpoena? Does your university consider a court order as a legitimate excuse for missing class? If no and yes, ask the attorney to subpoena you and show that as documentation. And the OP replies, I have been subpoenaed and show the documentation to the deans. Unfortunately, it isn't just missing the midterm. It's missing any classes at all, and I have class 5 days a week and the court doesn't run on weekends, which is why they were pushing for me to take a leave of absence. I'll keep trying to push the subpoena as proof I absolutely need to be there to get justice, and it isn't like it's a fun outing for me, like I'm trying to skip class for a law and order type experience. Thanks. And then another commenter writes, I'd get that in writing from the dean and go over his head, because there's no possible way the campus legal team would be at all happy to know what he was doing. I doubt the rest of the university administration would like their campus to be the focus of news reports on colleges forbidding victims of crimes from testifying in court. Make an appointment with whoever is immediately above your dean, maybe the chancellor depending on your U, and talk to them. And the OP replies, thank you. I hadn't even considered the legal team because in my mind, they're here to protect the administration/are the administration. I'll look into that. Thanks. And then another commenter comments, at most, you'd be out less than a week for a trial. This doesn't make sense. They won't allow you to reschedule to take a midterm the following week. And the OP replies, unfortunately, the issue is not just midterm. The midterm is what brought my situation to the administration's attention. Their main concern is with the absences. The minimum amount of time I need to be home for the trial would see me dropped from at least one class, likely more, which puts me on academic probation. So I would then have to retake the courses over the summer or delay my graduation date to finish. I'm going to check into a proctored midterm at a college or library near my town to solve that issue, and then try to address the absences through other means. And another commenter comments, you should be able to get the court to work around your school schedule. Courts are often willing to consider a victim's legitimate life obligations. There's many a victim advocate you can speak to at the courthouse to help you navigate it. If not, your lawyer or the prosecutor can enter a request to change the date on your behalf. I hope it all works out for you. And the OP replies, thanks. Unfortunately, I have classes 5 days a week and the court doesn't run on the weekends. So no matter when I testify, it'll conflict. But I do have that in my back pocket if it would be easiest to schedule my testimony around my midterms instead of the other way around. So I'm keeping my options open with that one and discussing it with the prosecutor first thing tomorrow. And then there's an update over 3 weeks later, and it goes like this. Thanks to everyone's terrific advice, I got my university's ombudsman involved and also reached out to a local survivors group, similar to Rain, who connected me to a wonderful attorney who facilitated between me and the legal services team at my school. Within a day of meeting with the school's general counsel, my attorney and I were invited to meet with the deans who had made the initial decision. One of my professors, who apparently saw my legal advice post and put 2 and 2 together, my professors were not previously aware of the full extent of what was going on, and he and my other professors submitted a letter on my behalf protesting the administration's decision, copying the board, ombudsman, legal counsel, and high-level members of the administration, which was so incredibly touching. I'm still overwhelmed and trying to properly thank them. Between my professor's incredible gesture and me showing up with an attorney raising flags, at the meetings I was given carte blanche to work out the details of my absences between myself and my professors. I'll take them at school just early. And 2 were able to give me modified assignments that could be done at home but still exemplified the same knowledge and skill sets. The ombudsman and the legal counsel assured me that they are looking into the policy that caused this ordeal in the first place. The ombudsman is making sure the policy is being correctly and reasonably enforced. Example, not used to coerce students into violating subpoena. And the legal counsel is advising the administration on new guidelines for the policy, so no one else has to experience this going forward. Thank you everyone here who took time to give me such helpful advice. I appreciate all of you. And that's the last we hear from the OP. For years, my 35F husband 37M said that if I want stability in our life, I have to make it happen. I did. And now things are worse than ever. Help? And then the original title is, my husband is burned out and can't work in his normally high-paying field. I'm resenting having to go back to work to support us. Help. And the post goes like this. This is part genuine request for perspective/opinions and part getting it off my chest. To sum up, my husband and I have been married 10 years. We have a good marriage and have never faced any truly difficult times. It will be difficult to explain everything that goes into this, but I'm happy to expound in the comments. Basically, the last decade has largely been focused on achieving financial independence. I had never been a very business-orientated person until I met my husband. He is extremely entrepreneurial and his passion for it is catchy. We have run our own businesses together and separately throughout our marriage. The goal has always been to make enough money on location independent businesses we can live freely. Not necessarily retire, but to have more freedom. Because of his encouragement, I am now on a career path that could easily result in that. In 10 years, we have moved 25 times. all because better opportunities have presented themselves or current opportunities have dried up. We're now facing number 26 and number 27 not far away because 26 doesn't look like that good of a prospect. Without giving away any details, my business fluctuates greatly. I've had months where I pull in mid-5 figures and long stretches of a few hundred. My career outside of this is food service with a very definite wage ceiling. My husband's career is professional and can easily find a 6-figure salary position. His current online business currently brings in low 4 figures. We have always relied on his going back to work when money runs low. He's in high demand, can practically snap his fingers and get a job. I cannot. Here's the conflict, and where I'll try to eliminate as much of my bias as possible. My husband is completely burned out. He physically and emotionally can't deal with the stress of going to work right now. He has supported me through the last couple of years when my income has been low. I've always been aware of my financial contributions and make up for it by carrying the grand majority of the household chores. Even when I was working 60 plus hours as a manager and pulling in half his wage. But as our savings are dwindling, it's looking more and more like I'll have to get a job. That means pushing my business to the back burner, working a physically demanding job, all for a quarter of the pay he could get. I'm not one to spend money. We didn't have a wedding. We bought my wedding band 3 years after we got married. I cut my own hair. I work from home in sweatpants. It's not as though I've forced him to work jobs he hates in order to provide me with an extravagant lifestyle. I've worked crap jobs to help provide for us in the past. And even when my business isn't earning a ton, I still put in 50 plus hours a week. I'm craving stability, not permanence. Just a feeling that I can unpack our boxes and not feel like I should save them in a closet, knowing in 6 to 9 months I'll need them again. We've been child-free for years, but the last couple of years the topic has been coming up more and more. Yet, I feel it's impossible to even discuss the idea of starting a family in the face of such uncertainty. I miss my cats. They're living with my parents overseas. I want a fish tank and a place to hang pictures. He says, if you want those things, then make them happen. Which, fair enough. I completely agree with. I don't want to rely on him to provide the life I want. However, it leaves me feeling a combination of emotions I can't really put a word to. I find myself going through mental exercises of what would I do in this situation if I was single? How would I support myself? And I start to feel resentful. I'm not single. I'm married. And not only that, I'm not sure I can make enough money to support us. I desperately want him to find what it is he's meant to do. I don't care about the money or the dreams of financial independence if it means he's miserable trying to get there. He's been trying to work out which direction to change for the past year and has yet to come up with anything solid. I know it's all about give and take, but I can't help but feel I don't know. I don't know the words, and I'm at a complete loss as to how we resolve this. By the way, we have talked about all of this about 1,957 times already. There is nothing written here he hasn't heard before. TLDR, husband has always been the primary earner with well-paying jobs, but has experienced serious burnout. As we're eating into our savings, it looks like I'll have to put my businesses on hold and go back to work. Our discussions about steps forward have left me feeling resentful about our roles in the relationship. Am I being a spoiled brat about it all? And then there's an edit, and it goes, I appreciate all the comments and opinions. This got a lot more response than I expected. Just a few things. It's difficult to sum up an entire life in 100 words. The moves have been for varied and obviously with 25 of them, multiple reasons. Some were because my husband was offered a good job. Others were to be nearer family. I've been pursuing my side business for the last 3.5 years. The 7 prior to that, I was in full employment, sometimes working a full-time job while also helping to run our own business. He has not financially supported me for 10 years. I'm not sure where people get MLM from, but I'm a creative field. I'm in a creative field. As I said, I don't want to reveal details because I create products and then sell them online. We are not scam artists, nor do we have to leave town because people are catching on to our pyramid scheme. Lol. As far as financials go, again, it's impossible to sum up 10 years of income. But we go through feast and famine periods. Times when money is flowing in and times when we live off of what we've earned. We never live outside our means, and when money is good, we put thousands a month away to prepare for the down times. It's not a typical way of living, so I understand it's not easily relatable. And then there are some comments, and they go like this. It sounds like he is finally burnt out from being the one in a relationship to be the financial rock. That is exhausting after a while. It's great that it has allowed you the freedom to try your hand at a myriad of things, but it puts a lot of pressure on him. And then the comment is talking about a quote that the OP said, and the OP said, "It looks like I'll have to put my business on hold and go back to work." And the commenter talks about that, saying this, "That is a very telling statement. Your business hasn't provided the work that you need to contribute equally. His has. It looks like it's time for you to step up and do the work and not the business for now. I think you need to just suck it up and work for now and get him into counseling. Then you two really need to sit down and figure out a different way to live. You've tried this path for 10 years and it's not working. You need to figure out a way to have stability as a couple that doesn't burn one or the other of you out. See a career counselor and a financial counselor." And then the OP replied, and the OP got downvoted pretty heavily, but the OP says this, "I readily hold my hands up and say I have a spoiled streak. I guess it would be a lot easier for me to accept going back to work if he had an idea, an inkling of what his next steps would be. But maybe that's just it. His job right now is to get better." And then the OP clarifies again, saying this, "I know it isn't clear in my original post, but it's not like I'm sitting around doing nothing all day. I easily put in more work on my business than he does on his, plus take care of the domestic stuff. I like to think there is more to the balance of a relationship than financial contribution. And there have been times I have financially supported us. It hasn't always been one-sided. I work hard to try and change it, but I guess the reality is it isn't changing right away." And then a commenter writes, "So, you both have entrepreneurial side businesses and full-time jobs, plus moving every 3 to 6 months for the last 10 years? That would burn anybody out. I know financial independence is a dream, but it seems like if both put down roots, maybe for a specified time like 4 years, and found stability, burnout wouldn't be a factor. Financially and emotionally, starting over takes a toll." And the OP replies to that saying, "We go back and forth when it comes to the full-time employment. Because of his high salary and short lifespan when working, it's been more like 6 months on, several months off. But there is always a side business. Always, lol." And then the OP clarifies about the savings, saying this, "When I say savings are dwindling, there is a lump of money in the savings account that we never ever touch and treat as the rock bottom. We never get close to that amount, so in my mind, what we have to live off in savings is running out. When we budget, we don't feel like we're doing well unless we're able to put money away at the end of the month. After 10 years of working, we're definitely not where either one of us would like to be. That's not to say the experiences and ups and downs weren't worth it. I honestly don't think it's in my husband to buckle down with a 9-to-5 job and squirrel away money for retirement. I have always been happy to help him pursue his goals of owning/running his own businesses because I have faith in him. It's clear after talking through this on here, we're at a fork in the road." And then a commenter writes, "Your husband is about to hit rock bottom and you're not far behind. That money was saved for emergencies. The situation is not that different than your husband being temporarily disabled. At the very least, you need to consider touching it. And the OP replies, I appreciate the way you put that. It makes it easier to lock onto in my mind. Thank you. And another commenter writes, it sounds like both of you, like a lot of people who don't much care for the 9 to 5 but do work hard when you find your inspiration, don't know how to plan for self-maintenance. So my question to you is, are both of you really using your time and enthusiasm wisely? Staying put for 2 years is absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. Making a plan to say get to X level of income, then investing in a place in South America and making that your 6 months home base where you go between looking for opportunities in your own country is also an option. It would give you a solid place to paint the walls and unbox and cut in expenses while you stay there. And the OP replies, I relate to this completely. I'm completely guilty of not building in time to recover and relax. In fact, over Christmas was the first time I've taken away from my work in 3 years. I believe part of my resentment is misguided towards my husband, our situation, because I poured so much of myself into grabbing onto success. When it hasn't worked out, I feel like 1, a failure, and 2, like I could have done more. Your last point has been something I've suggested over the last year, as a compromise of sorts. So it's interesting to read someone suggest it. Thank you. And then, a bit less than 10 months later, there's an update. And it goes like this. I'm writing partly to sort all this out in my head and partly for outside perspectives. I don't even know what to think anymore. Again, I'm happy to explain my details that need fleshing out if it helps. I'll try to be concise, and I truly appreciate you reading. 9 months ago, I posted asking for help about my frustration with going back to work after my husband burned out in his career. For the sake of anonymity, I tried to be vague with the details, and many thought our work was on the dodgy side. I don't care about keeping it anonymous. All these factors are relevant. I'm an author. I self-published books and made a decent living doing it for several years. My husband is a software developer and mainly buys existing online companies and fixes them up to sell. When that's not working, he tries to work a normal 9 to 5, but typically lasts no more than 6 months. His last attempt was 1 day. My career before this was in the food industry, which means crap pay, long hours, and very sore feet. I got a job that pays 95% of the bills. The rest is covered by savings. Yeah, I'd rather be working for myself, but I like it. I'm good at it. It's the first time I actually enjoy going to work. For the last few months, I've been slowly changing, and it feels like my husband and I are drifting apart. At first, I thought it was a natural phase. Things will definitely feel different compared to working under the same roof all day and night. Now, I don't know. From the previous thread, he says if you want those things, then make them happen, which fair enough, I completely agree with. I don't want to rely on him to provide the life I want. However, it leaves me feeling a combination of emotions I can't really put a word to. I find myself going through mental exercises of what would I do in the situation if I was single, how would I support myself, and I start to feel resentful. I'm not single, I'm married, and not only that, I'm not sure I can make enough money to support us. That was a quote from the other thread. And then the OP continues, I am making enough money to support us, and it feels good. It's given me confidence in a way I haven't had before, but it's also made something glaringly obvious in our relationship. We disagree on just about everything and have very little in common. I'm happy to work on my writing on the side while I work. He thinks I've given up on our dream and have settled for a world, the 9 to 5, M&F world, he is loath to spend time in. He sold his business and is still figuring out what he wants to do next. I want to buy a flat in the city. He wants to move to the country or use our savings to travel or live remotely. I want to settle for a while and make friends. He thinks there's plenty of time for that in the future. I want to make our home cozy and put up decorations like photos and artwork. While he likes it, He thinks of it all as just pointless stuff we shouldn't waste money on. I could go on, but you get it. It feels like literally everything I like, he hates. I've also realized that most of the moves, most of the big decisions were things I went along with. I'm not saying he bullied me or anything, just that I didn't feel too strongly one way or the other. So I tended to go with what he wanted. Of course, we talked about it, but it rarely was me pulling in the bulk of the income, so I didn't feel like I had much of a say. Now I feel strongly about a life direction and have the ability to make it happen, and I feel guilty. He says I've changed, that he's the same as he's been, wants the same things he's always wanted. This is me altering the situation, which I agree with, but it's not like it's this massive bait and switch plan. Our entire marriage, I've talked about settling down. I'm rambling. Here's the way I see it. We both love each other and genuinely want to make the other happy, which is why over 10 years we've both compromised on choices that go against what we individually want. He goes to work for a little while so I can have a semi-stable home. I bounce around the world with him so he can discover himself and his career. But our tolerance for these periods have become too short to manage. He physically can't work for another person. I want to scream when I think about packing up my stuff and starting over again. If we just spent so much time in our marriage being distracted by the exciting newness of moving and pushing for financial independence, we didn't notice how little we have in common otherwise. I can't help but feel like this is on me. Not my fault per se, but on my shoulders. I'm the one rocking the status quo, and if I want things to balance out, it's up to me to adjust my expectations. TLDR, things in my marriage have shifted drastically since I started working again. For years, my husband said that if I want stability in our life, I have to make it happen. I did, and now things are worse than ever. And then there are some comments, and they go like this. The commenter is quoting some of OP's post. These seem like fundamental incompatibilities. And the OP replies, they really do, don't they? And another commenter writes, they do, love. This is a really unconventional way to look at it, but if you met your husband now as a new relationship, would you be excited about the guy? Interested? Would he make you laugh and make your coffee just the way you like it? I'm not saying we all should hold our partners to the standards of the honeymoon stage of a relationship, but we should be in a relationship where we at least are attracted to each other and have basic values and preferences that are compatible. P.S. I think it's really cool that you have a job that you enjoy and you're a writer. And the OP replies, thank you. I consider myself incredibly lucky to have both. I've often posed your question to myself, what do we get together now as a new relationship? I think I'd still adore his passions and perspective on life. They're intoxicating. He's a sweet guy, always looking out for me, and remembers little things I like. He has a habit of giving me a kiss when he leaves the room, even if he's just going away for a half hour. Obviously, I could go on. I really think we need to go talk to someone professionally. Thank you for reading. Hug. And then the OP replies to a longer comment saying this. Before I get lost in my own selfish thoughts, I want to wish you luck with your businesses. It's not easy. I have loads of love for people who hustle for their passion. The friends and roots thing is a real sore point for me. Our whole marriage, we've been firmly child-free. The last 2 years, we have had a blast of, are we actually sure we're sure? Which threw up a lot of discussions about the future and what we envision. We're sure. No kids. But that means if I want a network of people near and around me, I have to work to make that happen. I have no family, and his family is ambivalent about seeing each other. All my friends have become acquaintances because of the moving. I see this lonely life ahead of me with no one in it, and that scares me. I just wish, and I know how ludicrous it sounds as I write it, but I just wish the normal life he could build with me would be enough for him. We could have an amazing, stable life full of traveling and friends and everything people dream of. but he sees getting a job as trading his life, his time, for money. And that's not a deal he wants to make. Thank you for your reply, and I really do wish you luck. And then there's an update 6.5 later, and it says here more than 7 from the original post. And it goes like this. Let's see what she says. I was recently cleaning out my bookmarks and found this old throwaway, and obviously the 2 posts I made with it. I'm not sure why now, but I feel compelled to write a follow-up. Maybe I'll give people the bravery to change, or at least an example of how sticking with what you know isn't always the best choice. An obviously a very long story short, with the help of those posts and a lot of long nights of thinking, I left my husband. In fact, it took him going away for a long weekend to realize how much happier and at peace I felt without him around. At first, the split was amicable, but looking back, I think he was just waiting for me to come rushing back to him once I realized my mistake. When that didn't happen, and he could see I was actually serious about building a new life for myself, a switch flipped. We only spoke when we needed something from me, and eventually that stopped too. Enough about him. I'm now 42, happier and healthier and more satisfied than I've been my whole life. I picked me, and that was the best choice I could have ever made. I lived alone for the first time, and my God, the peace of having my own space. Unrivaled. I ended up staying in that apartment for 5 years. Not a moving box in sight. I put art on my walls, I knew my neighbours, I made a home. I grew my career and went back to school. Made friends, built a little community. I've done a ton of therapy and realised that the abusive patterns my parents created in childhood were just repeating with my ex. I fell in love, a real love, a supportive love that encourages growth and security. I'm doing new work that helps people, and is so much more than just chasing money. All of those things have created a life that's more rewarding than I ever thought possible for myself. I've gone through some really crappy times too. Illness, cancer scares, deaths, loss. But I have no idea how I would have come out the other side without the community I'd built around me. Even something as simple as people at your local coffee shop recognizing you is a comfort after feeling adrift and alone for so long. Anyway, if I were to respond to myself from 7 years ago, this is what I would say. Leave the loser. He doesn't care about you. Never did. He only cares about what you can do for him, and now that you aren't serving him, well, just go. You're capable of doing difficult things, and you are worthy of the work it takes to accomplish them. Trust your abilities. Trust your gut. It's been screaming at you for years now, honey. Life can be so much more than you've experienced, but you have to make it happen for yourself. TLDR, left my husband, happier than ever. And then there's an edit, and it goes, I'm surprised but happy this found so many people. I genuinely thought I was going to bookend the story and have it disappear into the ether. But whatever urge I had to write it, and whatever brought you to reading it, who knows? Maybe it was meant to be. Thank you for all the messages and comments. I feel so grateful to have this perspective and experience. And that is the last we hear from the OP. I, 29F, recently discovered my boyfriend, 32M, of 4 years, has been keeping a blog mocking my business. This is probably going to be a controversial post, as I know Reddit isn't very fond of any religions, especially not ones that aren't mainstream. That might be a weird way of putting it, so I apologize if that offended anyone. I really truly don't want to. When my abuela died, I inherited the keys to a long-standing botanica. For anyone who doesn't know, this is a shop run by Latinos whose purpose is to sell religious, esoteric things. We sell the 7-day candles you'll see at memorial sites, herbs, oils, statues, books, services, etc. These are all things I grew up surrounded by and things that mean the world to me. I love them. To me, the scent of Florida water and Hoyt's cologne are home. I took business classes to run the shop properly, and it is a successful business. We profit off it nicely, and we made some changes over the years, including services that you can't get at shops around us. We care deeply for all of our customers. I spend about 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. there every day, and it's like going to my other home. My boyfriend, Thomas, works from home. He does tech work and things like that. He's always been a huge supporter of my business because he knows how much it means to me. He knows it's part of my cultural heritage, of my life, and of my ancestors and family. He also knows that I do not 100% believe in the things we do. I believe in many of them, but I'm not hard-boiled religious, and I don't adhere to many religious rules. That's enough backstory. Well, the other day, I made us some breakfast. He finished very fast and went out for his morning jog. I asked him if I could use his computer to do a few things since it was right there and I'm a slow eater. He agreed and just turned it over to me. He left on his run and I got to work. I just wanted to do a few accounting type things and also do some research for an upcoming trip we have to Havana. But when I opened his browser, several tabs were open, so I clicked to a different browser so as not to disturb his, since I never know what's work and what's play with him. The other browser had one thing up, the blog. I noticed he didn't use the name of the shop, but there was a clear picture of it, and underneath there was probably 50 entries so far. I didn't go through and read them all because after I saw the first one, I got the idea. I got the idea clear as day. He was making fun of it. All of it. Everything. My heart shattered. He made fun of the customers, of some of the products we have. One of the things we are known for is an extensive collection of candles for different saints, orishas and figures. He mocks some of the orishas and their candles and the novenas. What broke my heart the most is they made fun of the one figure who I like the most, who I don't want to mention because I don't want to offend. I keep a small home altar to the figure, attend to it carefully and with love. He makes fun of the altar and talks about how nonsensical it is and everything. The comments range from nothing to spam to dedicated followers who talk about his crazy girlfriend, how I'm absolutely nuts and he should run away, who would believe in any of this, a lot of people, and things like that. I was so stunned and obviously hurt that I had to check how long ago he made it. I saved the address and read through all of it while I was at work and cried. I don't know how to address this with him. He's been keeping the blog for 2 years now. My heart is shattered because our relationship has been nothing but love and smooth sailing, excitement and joy. He never shared my spirituality with me, and it was never something that I requested of him. I even kept my altar out of view out of respect for his own preferences. What do I do? How do we come back from this? To me, it's not just about the spirituality. I've grown up hearing people laugh at it and call it kooky and made up, strange and all that. But it's my grandmother's business. It's my ancestry and it's my heritage. To me, he is mocking those directly. What do I do? TLDR, mandatory summary / question. And then there are some relevant comments, and they go like this. My goodness, OP, that's so awful. It makes me just want to cry hearing that this happened to you. The only thing you can do is talk to him about it. And I think you need to say something along the lines of this. To me, it's not just about the spirituality. I've grown up hearing people laugh at it and call it kooky and made up, strange and all that. But it's my grandmother's business. It's my ancestry and it is my heritage. To me, he is mocking those directly. It's not funny. It's not a laughing matter. And it's insanely disrespectful. And the fact that he's been carrying on with it for so long, I really can't wrap my head around why someone would mock something so personal and cherished that they supposedly love. That's the most childish thing I've ever heard. I had to go back and check his age at the top of the post. Confront him, OP. He needs to apologize. Take this blog down and beg for your forgiveness. And then the OP replies, how do I confront him? I've honestly never had to confront someone about something like this before. And then a commenter replies, so I found your blog. That's literally all you have to say. Start with that. Focus on how it makes you feel, and that you feel like he doesn't respect you. And I would also consider keeping the funds you make from this business to yourself for the time being. If he can't respect it and actively trashes it, he doesn't deserve access to any of the profits beyond paying bills, etc. And the OP replies to that saying, oh yes, my business is mine and he shares none of it. We're not married and have no joint finances other than me helping him out with his student loans, since I did not have them and prefer to help with something like that. And a commenter replies, I would recommend stopping helping him out with his student loans, for now as well. He's being incredibly disrespectful about you and your relationship. It would be wise to create some consequences for his betrayal if you intend to continue the relationship. And then there's another comment disjointed from that saying, why does he even deserve a full confrontation? Do you need the closure? Because unless this is something you need, I'd pack your things, tell him you saw the blog, and leave. Or better yet, ask him to leave instead. And the OP replies, I'm not crazy about just upping and leaving without a word after 4 years. That's all. And then another commenter writes, what is your boyfriend like in regards to the business? Is he supportive? Does he ever mock it openly to you or your friends, or at the business? Is it an anonymous blog, or is his ownership of it public? You say he never shared your spirituality, but does he follow his own religion? First off, I'm not trying to excuse his actions. That being said, if he's not religious at all, could his blog be his only reprieve, I guess, from your spirituality? Everyone else here has immediately chastised him for being a terrible person. I'm not going to argue one way or the other without knowing more about him and your relationship. That being said, speaking as someone who does not subscribe to any religion/spirituality, you seem pretty entrenched in the religion. You work every day at the store and have a home altar in the home the two of you share, dedicated to it. You should probably talk about it a lot. And it's probably a big part of the majority of your friendships. I know if I was in his shoes and with someone I loved and cared for immensely, who believed extremely heavily in something I found ridiculous, I would need some type of escape from it. I would never want to prohibit you from doing anything, and I would never ask you to change something you cared so much for. I would never put it down to you/your friends/your family, but I would need some type of a break from it. It seems like the blog is his break, and kind of seems like it's the only one he ever gets, since he's not even free from it in his home. You need to discuss it with him as rationally/calmly as possible, and I know that's difficult when dealing with religion/super spirituality, but it's absolutely necessary that no one loses their cool during this discussion. Anyways, with limited info here, that's my 2 cents. And then the OP replies saying this. He doesn't mock it openly to anyone. Of course, I would never stand for that. He does not follow his own religion, but he is not an atheist. He just hasn't found what works for him yet. But to be clear, it's not a big part of my friendships, and I don't really talk about it other than when he asks if anything interesting happens or anything like that. He will come into the shop many days to bring me lunch or hang out on his break, which is where he gets his stories from. But once I leave the site, I don't talk about it to him because I was taught that work and home don't mix like that. And then there's an update, and it goes like this. I had my heart set on not just getting up and leaving. There were still some things that we needed to talk about. So when I got home 2 days after I made that post and had time to think about it, I confronted him. I started reading one of his posts off to him. He asked me how I found it. I was honest and told him. He started to get annoyed and asked me why I was snooping. I wasn't. And then he started up with his defense before I could even get a word in. He told me that he always had a hard time understanding how I could be part of something where there was no logic behind it. How I could take money from anyone knowing that that stuff is fake and everything. I let him say what he needed to say. I asked him, "Is that really how you feel?" And he said yes. And that he was happy to finally get it off my chest. He just insulted me, my beliefs, my family history, all of it in the span of 20 minutes. I told him if that's how he feels, he needs to leave. The place we live in was mine originally. He just moved in after we were dating for a while because it was easier. I didn't want to have to stoop that low, but living with someone who thinks that little of what I do and my business, the business that supported our very comfortable lives for all this time, isn't something I can compromise on. He asked me if I was breaking up with him because of it, that it was his right as an American with free speech to do what he's doing, and that I'm trying to censor him like all religious nuts do. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, so I just asked him to leave. Over the next days, he collected his things, and when he got out his last box, he told me that he would not come back. But I could bet he would still be posting on his blog about my shop. I think the last thing I said to him was to have fun with his 15 blog readers. I'm really heartbroken over this. I'm very sad it came to this. It's going to be a long time before I try dating again. TLDR, confronted him about this, and he blew it into his right as an American with free speech, and I was censoring him. I kicked him out and have no intention of dating anytime soon. And that is the last we hear from the OP. Okay, so that was 9 true Reddit confessions. Thank you for staying this long. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know. If you didn't, let me know. Like, comment. I read all your comments. You guys know this. You know I do. Just let me know. Just like, comment, and subscribe. If we get to 10K, I've seen a lot of people asking about my personal life. If we get to 10K, I'll do a little Q&A. 10K Q&A. I am Shakespeare. Because I wanted to keep my personal life out of this channel, but some people really want to know, so I don't mind doing a little Q&A. But we gotta get to 10K. That's right. Okay, enough waffling. The update for the channel is this, right? So I'm going away to Norway. I'm going to go on an expedition on the 15th of April. I don't know when I'll be back. And then I'm going to Mont Blanc in August. And I just said I wanted to keep my personal life out of it. But I'm letting you know. I'm letting you know what's happening. Basically, I'm going to be away from a computer for freaking like 5 months. If I've got my head on right. Don't worry, I'm working now. You guys need to give me a week, as if I haven't been off for a week anyway. You guys need to give me a week so I can work to schedule some videos so there's a little bit of consistency to the videos coming out. So that's what's happening. I'm just going to be away. I'm going to be in Norway. God, I am Shakespeare, dog. I literally am. And yeah, just letting you know that I just need a week off so I can make these videos and then get them ready for April, May, June, July, August. So thank you for listening. But yeah, I really appreciate all of you. You guys are amazing. I didn't think that I would come back and you guys would love this stuff. But you do. And it's great to have all that reception. I love you guys. You guys are great. The stories, the creepypastas, I'm going to change them from little parts, like, you know, little stories, 30, 40 minutes, to a compilation at the start of every month. Because I really like doing these Reddit videos. No, it's not just because of the views. I actually really enjoy the true confession. When a confession is true, it's really, like, it's crazy to read it. Because crazy stuff happens, like in this episode. So the true stuff I really like. I love the horror, the creepypastas, but I want to make that into a long compilation at the start of every month. So people that like them, because this channel is built on creepypastas, that's where I started. For them, I don't want to leave them in the dust. I love you guys, and I still do love creepypastas, but the Reddit stuff is cool. I enjoy that more now. I'm going to do a compilation That could be 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe 4 hours. I'm aiming for 4 hours at the start of every month for you guys. So don't worry, the crew passes aren't going anywhere. They're just going to be a big compilation. I'm trying to speed this up because it's really long anyway. So yeah, that's what's happening. The Reddit stuff is going to be the main stuff now, but the crew passes are not going anywhere. They're just going to be in a big compilation that you can choose to digest and consume when it comes out, or you can leave it with the timestamps and you can listen to the stories as you like. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. But that's where I'm going. I'm going to be gone, but I'm not. And people that won't listen to this won't understand. They will think, oh, he's just uploading, you know, and like he's uploading more frequently. No, I am in the fjords in Norway. So that's what's happening. Okay. Thank you for listening to me waffle. If you have, leave a comment. If you have listened this long, leave a comment and make the comment freaking SJ is awesome. No, that's too much ego. Just put Shakespeare, because I am a lyrical genius. Yeah, Shakespeare, if you got this far. If you did, I will cry, because you actually listened to me for this long. But okay, one last thing. At the end of the day, you might think this is unprofessional, whatever. Brody, this is my channel. If you don't like it, you don't need to stay. But if you like somebody that's genuine, who's not an AI, contrary to popular belief, who's not an AI, who's an actual person who actually enjoys this stuff and knows how to edit a little bit, welcome. My name is SJ, StalkingJaeger. So, yeah. Thank you for listening to me waffle. I appreciate all of you. I do love all of you guys. You guys are amazing. As I've said a million times before, thank you for watching the episode. And I will see you in the next one. Ciao.